Welcome back to another episode of the Downsizing Roadmap podcast with your hosts, Jody Rosko and Heather Fisher. We're talking about all things downsizing, from our own experiences with clients to guest experts. Let's make downsizing easier, one conversation at a time. Welcome to our 5th episode of Downsizing Roadmap. I am Jody Rosko.
I'm Heather Fisher.
And today we are going to talk about the mindset of downsizing.
Probably the most important topic and the hardest.
Yeah, we do. We just have a lot of stories about that and people really just kind of struggling with a negative mindset around it. And a lot of that comes from overwhelm. And so overwhelm turns into, or overwhelm comes from fear. All of that overwhelm comes from a little bit of some negative connotation things that we, hear from people.
Yeah, I think we made a little list of some words that we think of, that we find people tell us their feelings. I don't know, should we go through let's talk about the list. We'll read the words and then revisit, but people talk about downsizing and their emotion around it is loss, fear of the unknown, not ready to become a senior and face that's the stage they're at, anxiety, sadness, tiredness, that's a big one. Yeah. Yes, that's the more proper word. Stress, grief, that's a hard one. A lot of times there's grief involved, and depression, which we don't want people to get to that point. No,
I think, again, the purpose of our website, our podcast, we hope is that you all just start getting ready early and not from a place of crisis. And I think a lot of times when we're dealing with people who are feeling that depression and anxiety and all of that, grief is a big reason for that. It's because they waited and, now they might be alone. And so they feel isolated and they feel overwhelmed and they feel sad. And so there's a lot of that. So we're hoping that you don't get to a place where you're coming from a place of crisis, because it's really hard to make good decisions from that place.
It absolutely is. And grief is a hard emotion and overwhelm is a hard emotion. So if you can do the two at different times, it's slightly easier. If you can, in those times of grief that we all go through, if you're already prepared on the decision front for things, then you can just go through the grief.
Right.
And, be prepared and be living that great life that it works for the phase that you're in.
Yeah.
And not have that layered on because you planned ahead.
Yeah. I feel like I had that. I ended up having to go through my mom's house. That was also my grandma's house. And there was just so much stuff. And I had the grief. And so I was in that place. And I just want to keep everybody away from that place because that wasn't a great place. It was hard. And it took way longer than it should have taken because of my overwhelm and not wanting to go over there and feel the grief and deal with it all at the same time. So what our goal then would be to try to have us change those words in your mindset, have you change those words from loss and fear and all of that to gain, embrace the unknown. I know unknown can be scary, but it can also be exciting. So, and that's really in just how you're framing it,
And I think that it's not as unknown if you have a plan and a dream.
Right.
Then it's known what you're headed towards. And
right.
That takes a little bit of that out. So you embrace that.
Right. So some words that we would like to change those into is, freedom, joy, happiness, energy. So how you replace that, I think, how do you do that? I guess that's the question. Like, how are you going to replace those words? So I think gain, I think when you start thinking about what your life could look like in the future, if you spend some time thinking about what that looks like, what could those gains be? I mean, those gains could be, they could be family time. They could be less time cleaning or mowing your lawn. They could be travel. There's so many. They could be social. You could be in a place that has, more friends. They could be warmth, because I'm just telling you right here, we're in Dayton, Ohio today, and it is very, very cold and icy, and warmth might be nice. Maybe you're going to relocate to a place that's warmer, and, that's what you need. But what are your gains? What are gains going to look like for you? And we talk about this all the time, be dreamy about what that looks like. Embrace the unknown. You're not in control anyway. I think that is one of the things that I really learned when my mom and grandma both passed away together and, the same year, is that I don't have control over any of it.
No,
and
none
so
of us gets to choose.
We can do our best to say, hey, this is what I want my life to look like, and kind of let that, I think, the more you try to control it, the more pain you're going to feel around it. And so I think that's what's happening when people are feeling negative about it. They're trying to control things that they can't control too. And so let that go and embrace that unknown. And what could that look like? I don't think we spend a lot of time thinking about what our future could look like. I think sometimes we just spend our days doing our thing and not really looking at what that looks like in the future.
I think, we both have college-age daughters, new college-age daughters, and, if we spent the time that we spend at that phase in life, we did the college tours, we did the conversations about, well, what, amenities does this have? What benefits? What classes? What degree are you going for? What does life look like after? Where are you going to live? What room? What building? All of those things, if we applied that same process later in life, it's like we stop doing that as, people. We do it so much when we're planning those early stages, and I just feel like we shouldn't stop doing that. All of those same steps that we've both just gone through, just translated. Go tour communities, tour homes, go look at what, you need most and what each place has to offer, the pros and cons, and make those decisions and the plan, and look at that financial picture.
Right. There's a lot of pieces to it, and you're gonna feel, I think part of depression and overwhelm is not just not knowing what's happening next. And so if we're not going to plan it, but we're not going to know, we're going to just be stuck in that spiral of, feeling overwhelmed and depressed about it. And I have heard seniors say to me, well, I just don't have that long left. And so it's hard for me to plan, when we're talking about our girls who have their whole lives ahead of them. We think we don't actually know. We hope so, but we don't ever, and none of us know what's going to happen. And people, will say, well, it's hard to get excited about that because I just don't have that much time left. And I feel like I hear you, but I also think every day is a gift for all of us, no matter how old we are, and we need to live it, and we need to live it to its best, and
if you can improve the quality and the stress level of however many days any of us have,
right,
that's always a good thing. So I don't think we should stop dreaming and planning, and remember anything is possible. Any kind of change is possible for the positive.
We were at a downsizing class that we were giving today, and we were partnering with another resource that does senior living, but she had a slide, and it said the oldest living person right now is 119. So you might not think you're going to live, that much longer, but you just never know. You really don't know.
I thought, thank goodness, I'm not really middle-aged yet. That was my thought,
Like, wow. And also, I'm like, do I want to live to 119? But it really depends on what your life looks like. And so make your life look like something, that you want to live. I guess that's what I want, make it look like that. My Nana, she played golf, every day all the way up, really pretty close to up to when she passed away. She was still doing all the things, and she was such a great
I didn't have the opportunity to meet her, but from all of your stories, I think the word embrace, like, fully describes her. She embraced her life and
She
did all the things, the golf and the happy hour and the friends and the community and all of that. And so that had to have contributed to her being so vibrant for so long.
Yeah. I have a fantastic example of that. And now I know maybe not everybody does, and we've met some amazing people. Linda was amazing. Her spirit was amazing. And she kept that, fun, loving spirit all the way until the end. And I just loved her. And, she knew she didn't have a lot of time left even when we were talking to her. And she was still out there doing all the things and joining the committees and,
taking charge of her life instead of letting life happen to her. She was full force.
Yeah, she was amazing.
Taking charge of every day.
I loved that about her. So it's possible. It's just a mindset. And so that's, I think, what we're trying to get at today is, what is your mindset? And whatever it is, if it's not what you want it to be, you can change it because you're in control of that, which is, good news.
Yeah.
That's good news.
We can't control what happens to us, but we can control how we feel about it, react to it. So
yeah, I think I talk a lot about stuff being heavy, and I think when you're surrounded by a lot of heavy stuff, that also brings on low energy, kind of, you're just feeling like everything around you is heavy, even though it's familiar, it's still heavy. And so that's one way I think we watch people as they go through this process. They just get lighter and more free without so much stuff. So
I think the weight of procrastinating on something, the emotional weight of procrastinating and knowing you should make progress on something and you're not, is more exhausting than actually doing a little piece of it. Right.
Sitting there on the couch, not doing it, thinking, I know I need to do this. I know I need to do this. And not doing it. That is very exhausting.
It is. You're not doing anything, and that is more exhausting because your brain's doing some mental gymnastics around avoiding and procrastination.
Yep. So the idea is change those words into gain, embrace, the unknown, freedom, joy, happiness, energy, maybe relationships. Maybe you'll have time to make more time with your family in relationships like that. Or maybe it's new friends, new people that you meet. Maybe it's a new location, so you're going to meet all kinds of new people. So what could that look like? So create that vision that you want to live day to day. Doesn't have to be a long-term vision. It can just be your day-to-day life. What does it look like?
Yeah, absolutely. We say a lot that stuff is just stuff, and maybe there's a few reasons why, stuff is not just stuff. And so let's talk a little bit about that, because I think the end goal is to get to the point where you feel a little more like it's just the stuff.
Yeah,
so
I think that stuff can have really, really strong emotional attachments. And it's really, even though it seems like it's the stuff, it's really the story behind the stuff, or the memory of the person, or the memory of you doing something that you loved. The memories and the stories around that is really what carries the value, not the stuff.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's really, really hard to distinguish between those two things. And sometimes it feels like, oh my gosh, if I let this stuff go, I'll never remember those memories again, because it brings out the memory for you. Yeah. So some things that you can do around that to fix that are write down your stories. Take pictures of the stuff and write down your stories. You could create a little scrapbook or some kind of a memory book. I've heard of people creating websites that have their, family stories on them, with pictures and stories and all of that. There's books that you can write.
There's a lot of books you can buy with prompt questions and get you started on your stories if a blank page is intimidating to you. But it can be just as simple as a notebook and,
Journal.
your handwriting and journaling about the things that you remember and you want other people to remember about you. Putting that along with a photo if it's around the stuff. A few key pictures with a story goes so much further than a box of, photos that no one's sure what they were from, where they were, who the people are. You could really tell the story around it and make that a very treasured part of your family.
Yeah, because I think that's what your family wants. They want to know your stories. I mean, I know that's what I want, is just to know the stories of my parents and grandparents that I can share with my kids and their kids and tell them about who they were and what their legacy was. And so if there's certain special things that you want to keep that really remind you of who that person was, that's okay. Keep those things, but not a ton of them. You don't need a ton of them. When you find the right thing that is super special, that's enough. Like that is the essence of what they are.
I think a value that I learned, through one of the companies that will do a book with the prompt questions. My mom did that. And I think what we forget, I've said this before, but, I know my mom for the last, 30 years of being an adult, more on the, how are the kids doing? Where are we going? What time are you coming for dinner? What time are you leaving? And we rarely get to know our parents for the people that they are outside of those family events and how they revolve around yourself and your kids, their grandkids, and all the logistics of things. And so those journal answers that she wrote in the book gave me such a perspective on, her as a person before I was born and, her family dynamics from her view, or, stories of her and my dad that were from her perspective, not my little kid perspective, looking at them that way, or, her view of vacations that we took as a family. And it's things you don't think to ask your family members and really get to know them as the person that made them into the person they are now. We get into a lot of family situations where we're close, but it's in the getting together and the food and the logistics and the games that we play or whatever. And so it's really an opportunity to not only process through those memories of yourself and think back on your favorite parts of your life, but share that so those stories aren't lost later on if you're not able, here to share them or able to share them.
I love what you said about like the vacation and her memories of it versus your memories of it. Like
I was a kid. I, had a fully different perspective than my parents did. And, I love that we'll have that in that book that she put together, and the stories of how she viewed her childhood. I know my grandparents from my perspective, but not from all the years where they were growing up as a family. So really great, and I would recommend that for anybody to share their story in that way.
That's awesome. Yeah. Excuse me. So emotional attachment's one thing. Fear of regret, like worrying about needing an item after it's gone.
Yeah. I mean, we all spend money on things. We need them in the moment, or we don't need them in the moment. But we all have so many things that we have spent our money on that we just don't need. They might still have life in them. Hobbies that we thought we would love that we didn't, and, crafting things and too many, outfits that we thought we would wear and we didn't. And I think that that's even a little bit easier than the mementos if you can just give yourself permission to know you spent the money, you got whatever life is going to be coming from you out of that item. Let someone else use it. There is no guilt in that. The money is gone and spent. If it's something you can get money back on, certainly do that. But, we learned a lot from the Matt Paxton book. It's almost better to think about where can you donate or give something before you're thinking about selling it.
Right. And I think what people find that we've talked to, and what I've even found as I've created boxes of things to donate, is that 6 months down the road, I don't even know what was in the box. Like, I genuinely don't miss it. And if it's something that I really did miss, I think you can potentially just go buy it again, unless it's, something super expensive. But don't keep things because they were expensive and now you don't use them. That's, again, a place where you want to give it away. If you haven't used it in, I think 6 months. Matt Paxton was saying 1 month.
Yeah.
1 month.
Yeah. And what one of our friends and listeners was telling us after listening to our 80-20 rule, what was it, the $20?
Oh, yeah. If something is less than $20, or you can get it within 20 minutes, and we can get everything from Amazon almost.
It feels like 20 minutes sometimes.
20-minute drive, he was saying that if it's less than 20 minutes away,
don't even give it a second thought.
Yeah.
So
because likely, don't think, oh my gosh, I'm going to be buying things all over again. Like, likely you just aren't. You just think that you are. I have an ice cream maker. I don't ever use it. I need to let it go. Somebody might love making ice cream.
You've told me before about your grandpa saving the cords.
Yeah,
not even usable. At that point.
That is that generation of people who went through the Depression, or whose parents did it even sometimes, because that thought process gets sent down to the kids. But he kept everything because he thought he came from a place where he did not have.
Yeah.
Right. And so that fear of not having again made him cut every appliance. He would cut the cord off of it. And so if you went out to the garage to try to get an extension cord, you'd be like, oh, there's a plug, and you'd pull it, and there'd be
nothing at the other end.
No other end.
Yes.
And so so I understand that's a place of trauma, honestly, of not having and then thinking that you're never going to have again. And so that's something that you have to work yourself through to know that you're going to be okay, and that's where we're at.
And to know, with everything, back to the 80-20 rule, you don't have to get rid of everything, but there will likely never be a time, in that instance where suddenly you needed 40 more cords all
right.
at once. Or, I think that the overwhelm comes from too much, that we will never need all of the things that we've stored up at one time that we couldn't.
So if
easily.
You have to buy one or two things again because you're like, oh, I got a little extra excited that day and got rid of too many things. If you have to buy one or two things, that's not going to be a huge expense of whatever. So worrying about making like an irreversible decision, it's not.
Especially in this day with Amazon and the convenience of so many stores right away, close to us. There's very little decisions on getting rid of stuff that are irreversible that can really clear such a huge bulk of things.
Yeah. I think the other thing that was in that Matt Paxton book, he was talking about what-ifing, that he was what-ifing himself to death.
Yes.
What if this? What if I need it? What if somebody else needs it? What if, and so you can do that. And that's just a form of procrastination, honestly, of just not making that decision and worrying about what's going to happen. So, so getting through that, you can, you just have to trust the process and let it go. And
decide the answer to that what if question is, well, what if I need that? Then I will buy another one.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So another one is, feeling overwhelmed. Just we get that all the time, feeling overwhelmed. And the way to combat that is to just do small things at a time. Just do a little bit at a time and do it on a very consistent basis. And just make that a habit that you're just doing it over and over again. And that can just get that ball rolling. And
start with
the easy
those things that aren't going to make it feel quite as overwhelming. So start with kitchen drawers or, junk drawers, garages, those places where you can make some progress without emotionally exhausting yourself. And those wins will carry you through the harder things because you'll already know that feeling of, I feel lighter, it was okay.
Yeah, like every time I clean my junk drawer and then I pull it open, I'm like, oh, I'm so much better, and so any area you can get that, celebrate that win, even if it's a little one, go, it looks great, get yourself excited, and then you want another one, and then you want another one, and it feels good to have those wins and celebrate them. So sense of loss, sometimes people feel, downsizing can go with major life transitions. You're retiring, your kids have left. It's empty nesting time. We know that one. Yeah. It's maybe somebody, you've lost a loved one. And so that sense of loss, kind of surrounds it. And so maybe instead of saying, I'm losing this, whatever, you can say, I'm making room for whatever is coming next.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's a hard shift sometimes, but it can be exciting. Again, change is just change. It's not good or bad. It's how you wrap your mind around what that looks like. And so you can decide that the change is going to be a good change. And you might even have to lie to yourself a little bit for a little while, even because you're not feeling it inside, that it's good, you're feeling it's not. But if you keep telling yourself that it is and looking for ways that it is, then it will be.
Yeah, and I think when it's a plan, when you're embracing that as your plan, then when it coincides with, those life changes that are a sense of loss, if it was already the plan, then it still is something you're excited about. We meet clients that are excited for their last kid to get out of high school and have that empty nest because they know that they're then going to somewhere warmer or, going to somewhere more manageable. So if you've already made that plan and you're not waiting for the event to happen to you, you've decided, in 5 years we're going here, or at this age we're going to consider a condo instead of our family home, and you're planning ahead for it. It can make it not so much a sense of loss as a reaction to something that's happened, but a plan that's a result of getting to that milestone or that event,
And an exciting plan, like something that you want to do.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So, so if there's a phenomenon that you have an attachment to things that you already own. And so one of the good questions that when you have something is, would I buy this again? Yeah. Because just because you own it makes you more, you like it more. It's just some weird thing because it's already in your house. And that's why when you get rid of a lot of things that, especially things that are not things that you use every day, you don't even know what they were because you only were attached to them once you looked at them again before you put them in the box and thought, oh, I might need this. But you haven't needed it for a very long time, and just seeing it because it's in your place, I think you're attached to it.
Back to, other phases of life, that's like the number one parenting rule, like don't clean out the toy room with the kids there.
Right, watching.
Because then every toy is their favorite toy right at that moment because it's there. But if you pack it up and put it in a box and move it out of the house, they're not going to even remember. I mean, odds are they would not know. I feel like for all of our houses, if someone else came in and boxed up 4 or 5 things that, they know I don't use, it would probably take me months to notice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And even if you did that for your kids, there might be one thing in that box that they're like, hey, where's the whatever one thing? If you put those boxes away for 6 months and, if they didn't ask for it, it's gone. But that's the same for us. We cleaned out my kitchen before we moved during COVID, and I think I had 13 or 14 boxes of stuff. And I literally can't tell you one single thing that's in those boxes. Like, don't even know. Like, they were the tops of the kitchen cabinet, the backs of the kitchen cabinets.
Yeah.
Stuff just gets hidden back there.
And it just becomes, you're not really seeing your own house.
Mm-hmm.
It's there and it feels like it's comforting, but you don't really even know what's there. My husband told me around Christmas this past year that the year before, he just put my Christmas gift on the bookshelf. And I would say, I love books. My books are one of my favorite things. I do. But my bookshelf is there full of all the books I love. And he just put it unwrapped in among the books. And the whole, however many months till Christmas came before he wrapped it, I had no idea because I don't actually, they're just there. So if someone took 20 books off of it, I wouldn't notice. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So ask yourself questions like, is keeping this thing more important than building a new life? Or is this something that I really want, or do I just feel guilty about keeping it, not keeping it? Or do I feel guilty about letting it go? Guilt's a big deal. So you got to just let the guilt go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's hardest when you're dealing with the loss of someone else, not from your household, a parent or a family member, and you're tasked with their whole house of belongings. And I think there's such a guilt that people we've seen they take so much to their own houses because that guilt of giving away, but they're not honoring the legacy that they want to remember about the person. They're just feeling guilty. Yeah. And so twofold. Number one, if that's what you're dealing with, then don't feel guilty. Find ways to honor that legacy and honor those things that will remind you of the person daily. And if you're, trying to do this for yourself and doing it ahead of time, don't leave that burden of not defining what those important things are. I think you've said in our class before, if you go buy a table at Target next week, do your great-great-grandkids need to love, a $20 table, side table from Target because you bought it one day? Right. So we look at things that are older from other generations of our family and think, oh, they're antiques. But it's only because those things are older, not because they have a story that you love or you love the item or they're the essence of that person. Like that table from Target I just bought because I needed a table that day. Like it's not who I am, right? And so you really just want to be keeping the things that really remind you of them and something that like they played an instrument or, or whatever that is, like they cooked or whatever it is that person did, that's what you want to keep that essence of. They collected vinyl records or, so you keep the best 5 of them. I don't know. Whatever that is that really reminds you of core memories of them, which isn't going to be the table from Target, unless it is for some reason that you sat at it every day or, whatever. Of course. But unlikely. Like you want to just be keeping things that are really them. Yeah, not the day-to-day things that they just went to buy out of necessity that became their whole package of their life's belongings. There's no reason to hold all of those at the same level of importance.
Right. And I find that with antiques especially, people, number one, think they have a ton of value, which unfortunately right now they don't. Not saying that market won't ever change, but right now they don't. And they used to, so they think that they still have a ton of value. But they don't love it, and they don't like the style of it, and it doesn't fit their house, but they feel guilty, so then they want to keep it. So then they put it in their house, and every time they walk by it, they go, yeah, I got to keep that. But it's not.
But are those the Hobby Lobby items of today?
Maybe.
You know, that those
Right. They weren't even, they're just
our
old.
grandparents are and great-great-grandparents are somewhere laughing that
Right.
we are.
Why are they keeping that dresser?
Yeah, just the things that were just
Right.
the day-to-day.
And if you use it and you love it, fantastic. Keep it.
Yeah.
That's the thing. It has to be used and loved, and you know, not because you feel guilty. Not because you feel guilty.
Yeah.
So, and you have to remember, you know, you're not losing the memories of the time that you spent with those people. It's just the stuff. It's just the physical stuff. If you need to take a picture of it and write the story, you know, do that, but you're not losing the memories by letting go of the thing. The memories are inside of you.
Right.
The thing is outside of you. The memories are inside of you. So that is important. So
I think that is an exercise. I think we heard it along the way somewhere, but I mean, you can even pick up an item that's, you know, you're struggling with, what story would I tell about this?
Right.
And if there's not a story,
it can go.
It can probably go.
Yeah, because like I don't have any story about any of the spatulas in my in my
No.
kitchen or the pots and pans.
No stories in my garage, things like that. So
yeah,
you know, don't get stuck. Really think about it.
So the idea is, you know, turn it into a positive experience. So I think that we just need to focus on the benefits of what it's going to look like. Less clutter. It just always feels better. There's not a single person that we have gone through this journey with and has said, you know, I wish I had all my clutter back all around me. Even if they're not downsizing, even if we just have gone to their house and said, this is what you need to declutter for pictures because we're going to sell your house. And then we come back for the pictures and like, why don't I live like this all the time?
Oh my
like,
gosh, we hear that so much.
So much.
Yeah.
So even if, you know, all you're doing is, you know, you're staying in place, but just let that stuff go so that you can breathe. And I promise it'll feel amazing. So focus on those benefits either of moving to a new situation or just having
enjoying
a freer
the space.
Yeah. Practice gratitude. You know, be thankful for the memories that you have, for the people that have been in your life, for those items that you keep and remind you of the people, and those items that you will let go and have somebody else have a great experience with those items now.
Yeah.
So it's really hard to be sad when you're being grateful.
That's true.
Yeah.
Such wise words.
Yeah, it's very hard to be sad when you're being grateful. So donate with a purpose, and we have a great list of donation people, and we will continue to add to that on our website, downsizingroadmap.com. But when you know it's going somewhere that's really going to help somebody, or you know, specifically if you have hobbies and they go to, you know, another hobby group that's doing those things, or if you have trains and they go to some, you know, a train group that loves them, or if you find places that are fantastic and they're going to love them, it's so much easier to let them go.
Yeah.
Or if you give them to people who are in your life that are going to love them. So guilt's not a gift. So not because you have to, because they really want that thing. That feels good when you donate or give with a purpose.
Yeah. I was just, my dad is in, my mom is at home, and we've moved my dad to a facility where he is currently, and I was there visiting him with my mom, and we walked through, and she pulled me into their little recreation room and said, I have to show you something, and she had donated some of their antique plates with, my dad loves to watch the birds outside the window or feed the birds, so she had put a display, you know, they already had the display case, and she had filled it with some of the things from their house, you know, with the birds on them and things, and you know, so that is such a rewarding thing. She can walk by on the way to visit and see their things, and other people can enjoy them.
Yeah.
And anything like that. There's so many places that people will be so happy to enjoy the things that you don't need anymore or have too much of. So you can abundantly give, and the reward you get back is, more than you would imagine.
Yeah, I there on our Facebook page, I think most towns have a free thing. It's buy nothing or giving with gratitude or whatever, buy nothing groups. And I had a bunch of art supplies that my son had never used. They were new, and I put them out there. And the lady that took them was so sweet, and she sent me a picture of her daughter laying on, like, not even an hour after she came to pick it up, laying on the ground, using all of it, and she's like, she just loves art, and it was just, it's awesome. Like, it's been sitting in my house, and now this sweet little girl is there, using it and happy, and it just feels great, and it feels so much better than having it sit in my house.
And that interaction with her and that feeling that it gave you, if you would have sold it for $10 at a garage sale or something.
Yeah, and the garage sale, I'd have it $10, and they'd be like, would you like a quarter for that? So, So I love it. It fills your heart. It makes you feel good when you find ways to give it to people who actually want it and will use it. And things deserve to be used. They should not be sitting, in our houses not being used. So, and then the fourth thing I think would be celebrate your progress. We talked about that too, but really genuinely celebrate your progress. Little wins, big wins, whatever that is, you're moving towards a freer, happier life. And acknowledge that.
Yeah, absolutely. The little boost we all get every day from small wins lead up to the big, those all add up to the big wins. Mm-hmm. But don't wait for a done to celebrate something that happened each day, progress you made each day. Every time you dedicate 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Celebrate that. Don't say, well, I'm not done.
Right.
Just take those words out and just turn it to, I made progress.
Right. Because you did. And it's hard. And acknowledge that.
Absolutely.
It's hard, and good for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, the quote I found for today was, it's James Clear, who I love. He wrote Atomic Habits, and I love his thought process, but he said, possessions are not the key to happiness. Freedom is. So freedom is the key to happiness, and freedom is found underneath all your stuff.
It really is. It's a mental freedom when you've handled it.
Yep.
I love that quote.
Yep. So, we are,
we've got some great episodes coming up. We've got a couple guests coming soon, so stay tuned. We'll let them come on here soon, but our next few episodes, we've got a few guests sprinkled in. So we're excited that you're here, and we hope that you keep listening, and we will talk to you next time.
Yep. All right. Keep that mindset good.
Thanks for joining us on the Downsizing Roadmap podcast. If you found this episode helpful, be sure to subscribe, leave us a review, and share it with someone who might need a little downsizing inspiration. Have questions or ideas for future episodes? Reach out to us on our website, www.downsizingroadmap.com. Until next time, let's keep simplifying and moving forward.